What do we know, everybody? Apologize about the hair. Wind is blowing just nuts outside. But guess what I gotta do today? Got to do. Not get to do, got to do. Because it's late. I mean, it's like, well, it's after 8 o'clock. I got a phone call that said we lost a row unit on a combine. So, cool. I don't do much with combines. Don't care to do much with combines. I can do stuff on the engine. That's not so bad. But there are a lot of moving parts. And the heads are just as bad. I shouldn't say just as bad. There's mainly just gearboxes and things like that. Slip clutches. But, whatever. So, they called me on the phone. They told me that. And then they called me again. So, we need you to call Case and order however many parts. They wanted the row unit, which is a gearbox. That gearbox kind of powers some chains and it'll power another gearbox. And it's all interconnected. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details. Farmers will understand. But it's the gearbox at the back of the head that powers the row unit. So then they called and they said, well, we also need a shaft and we need the collar on the shaft and this, that, and the other. So I called the place and I told them what they told me. And they had the parts and they had to go 40 minutes away to go get the parts. So then they called me back and said, well, that place there doesn't have the parts. So I called the local place and I take that back. The place there did have the parts. They had the gearbox. Nobody could get the shaft. And they had the collar, or they didn't have the collar. So I called the local place I use and I got the collar. When the collar is not a collar, the collar is a slip clutch. Well, after they'd spent all the time tearing everything apart and they had to pull the shaft out anyway for what was wrong with it. But they condemned a lot of stuff before actually inspecting it and looking at it. And I'm not complaining. You know, I didn't have to do it. It didn't cost me any money. Didn't cost me any time. But I find it just funny. Because, I mean, this isn't like going to, your local parts store and throwing parts at the vehicle. I mean, they can take these parts and return them. I mean, they didn't pull them out of the crate that they came in. But farmers are very, very impatient. And they're at the tail end of harvest. I mean, they just want to get it done. But I found it funny. I mean, just a little slip clutch. Looks kind of like a collar. Slides over that shaft. So you had to pull the shaft out anyway. That gearbox is a pain to get out of that head. I swear they put that gearbox in and then assembled everything around it. I mean, there's a couple of Allen bolts that you got to pull out that are pretty tough to get out. Luckily enough, didn't have to take it out. But what am I working on now? As you know, it's after 8 o'clock at night. Well, my wonderful mother-in-law, who I love my mother-in-law. I got great in-laws. She has an issue with the gas cap on this, and it's due for an oil change. Ran everything through. The evap canister was completely full, so I replaced that. And it ran good for a while. Now we're getting the gas cap code, and we can fiddle with the gas cap and get the gas cap the finally seat right, and then the light on the dash will go away. She's also got a TPMS sensor on the front left wheel that is bad. The battery's dead. But we're not going to worry about that today. But I do got a new gas cap, so we're going to go ahead and throw that on, and we're going to do an oil change on this. And it is a 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Nice little car. Her Equinox that she had got hailed out, totaled, and one of her friends had this, and we're looking to get rid of it, and I think it's been a pretty nice vehicle for her. I really like it. Not a huge Jeep fan, but this is a nice vehicle. But let's pop the hood, and I'll show you kind of what we're looking at here. So, this engine, 3.7 liter V6 engine, and I'm going to skip to some of the technical stuff before I go any further because I rambled on so long before, and some people just want that information and be done with it. 3.7 liter in the 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee is 5-quart capacity, 5 quarts of oil in it, and it is a 5W20 oil. So if you're a Mission oil cap or don't know, Or if you're flying blind on this and need to go get parts for your mother-in-law, well, here you go. Another thing I'm going to show you, I mean, the drain pan's pretty easy to find underneath. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, but the oil filler sometimes is tricky to find. And I'll show you where that's at. So I'll move my handy dandy light over to this side. And you still can't really see a whole heck of a lot, but here on the driver's side of the engine, all the way at the bottom there, you can kind of see it. There's your filter. It's kind of in a weird place, but I mean, it works. Now, if you're wondering how I get that off of there, you can do it a couple of different ways. If you got filter pliers, you can use those. I think that's actually what I used last time. Or you can use one of these guys. This is just I think it's actually a Lyle brand, but it's your kind of universal spring-loaded filter wrench. So you pull it apart, you stick it on there, and the more you crank on it, the tighter it gets. And it actually works pretty good on that. I got a set of filter sockets, which I am really not 100% sold on. I mean, they work, and they work good for some things. They do not work. The ones that I got do not work at all for this. I can get that filter to fit in that socket perfectly on the bench, but I cannot get it, just the angle everything's at, I cannot get it down there. And as far as making a mess with oil, when you're doing that, it's not really that big of a mess as far as that little, I don't know what you'd call it down there, but it does make a little bit of a mess. So I always wipe it up. It's your own vehicle, use your own discretion. I don't care. Hey, what do I care? If it ain't a customer vehicle, it ain't my vehicle, what do I care? But I guess I'm going to go ahead and lift this up. I'm going to drain the oil. And then after the oil drains out, I'm going to go ahead and pull that filter off. And we'll start getting everything set up from there. Alright, not very good lighting under here. I can see just fine. There is our drain plug. And that is a 13 millimeter. There she goes. Try to do this without making too much of a mess. Usually I got gloves on. There we go. Well, like I said, I usually wear gloves. Didn't put them on this time. Got ahead of myself. Is what it is. Not too worried about it. But being the filter is in a position that it is, I'm going to go ahead and let all this oil drain out here, which shouldn't take long. Engine's pretty warm. And she drove 30 some odd miles to get here. So we'll let it drain out. Got drain plug clean. Put the drain plug back in. Then I'll go ahead and lower the car back down and pull the filter off. Clean that mess up. Put the new filter on. Fill the oil up, and then we'll worry about the gas cap. I got drain plug in, got her lowered down. Had to go get my trusty Nevo light. And I've had a couple of these, but I really, really like this one. This one is strong, bright, and it's battery powered. And I do like the cordless stuff. I got a couple of cordless ones I really like, but the thing I don't like about them is that they take a different type of charging plug than your normal USB-C. And I'm not about switching a bunch of plugs over to charge things. Do got a really nice SunX light that charges on a USB-C though. Really love that light. It's dead right now. But I'm gonna stick this over here so I can see what I'm doing. And we will get this filter out of here. So you can kind of see down there how I got that set up on that filter. Got a little 3-inch extension on it. There isn't a whole lot of room, and you can see it's at a really weird angle. But got it broke free. And you can see the filter on this one is a Wix number 57045. Well, I'm going to go ahead and spin this thing out of there. Got the oil pan underneath. The life will be good. There, now we got that filter out of there. You can kind of see the mess I'm talking about. But it funnels out really, really nicely. Yeah, and just drains right out there. It doesn't make that big of a mess. Looks like a bit of a puddle, but it's all designed to run down, and I think that's actually what that tray's kind of there for. I don't know. I don't know much about Jeep engineering, but I'm going to go ahead, clean that up. I'm going to clean the filter housing up, and we'll get the filter on. So I think everything else pretty self-explanatory. Changing oil is pretty easy. It's just knowing where the stuff is, and heck, that filter can be a pain. Once you get it off, it's pretty simple. As far as the filter goes, going back on, lube your seal. Make sure your old one's not on there, which I did. Lube your seal up. Don't have to pre-fill your filter, and just hand tight. Don't wrench on this thing. For the love of everything, don't wrench on it. The people that had this before I did, they went to one of those quick change places, and they wrenched that bastard on, and it was a pain to get off. I thought I was going to bust the filter. But whatever. Go ahead, lube this up, put this on. Pretty easy to find where you put the oil in. 5 quarts. Run it for a little bit. Check your dipstick. Everything's good. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to come back at you when I'm ready to do the fuel cap. Alrighty, now that we have our oil change complete, let's take a look at the gas cap here. So as we can see, this is the gas cap that's on it. You can see our little fuel vent right there. See how that's all set up. And it wasn't sealing. This guy here is the new gas cap, which is obviously a little bit different. You can see we still got a vent, still got a seal. So I want to see if this is even going to work in here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this one. This is the original that was on there. That's how that goes. Pretty loosey-goosey. This is the aftermarket one that I just got. That bugger fits in there pretty darn tight. That's what I want. So I'm going to go ahead, get my trim tool and pop this guy out of here. I could also use a pair of dikes if I wanted to, or side cutters, I guess you got to say now. So you can get in there, you can knock it off. You can kind of see back there, it just pops through a little bit. However you would like, you could use a pocket knife for all I care. But pretty simple. Pop this one off. We'll stick that guy through. Obviously a little bit different on that end, but it still works. Stick that through so it can just hang there. And we should be good to go, but we'll go ahead and check the scanner out just to make sure. And don't mind me, but I did forget to mention one thing with this. We have to take this end here and we have to smash it down with some pliers. So we got to make this kind of nice and narrow. That way everything pops through, and then these little ears here are what's going to catch and keep it from pulling out. Sure, you'd figure that out on your own, but you know, somebody's going to say I forgot to mention that. And here, something like this. Something so it can go through that itty bitty hole. Well, there we go. Pretty easy peasy. Checked everything out. Everything is good. So we are going to take this back outside, give it back to my mother-in-law, and we'll kind of figure out what kind of fun we're going to have next. So I hope you guys stuck around at the end. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it a little bit informative. Love making these things. As always, I thank you guys for watching.